Hello, everyone. Welcome to Self-Love, Self-Care Conversations with Experts. Today, we have Heather Danielle on the show. Heather is a certified psychic medium, a healer, and a teacher. She is the founder of Rise Into Your Power. Her passion is helping others to gain a connection to a higher power so they can open up to their own unique spiritual gifts and live a spiritually infused life. She is the author of Anxiety to Angels. Heather is passionate in helping others open up to their own unique gifts and their psychic skills. Heather has a podcast and she also runs intuition courses in her line of work. So hello, Heather. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
You are welcome. Heather, I have a series of questions for you that may be of interest to our viewers, and I thought it would be lovely to talk a little bit about what you do. What I wanted to ask you first, my first question to you, is you say about how you teach others to have a spiritually infused life, and you talk a lot about being a psychic medium. Now, I want to know, what was your life like before you led a spiritually infused life? What was it like before Heather Danielle became a psychic medium? Because I think a lot of viewers are interested in this because they are at the other side. So before they can go down this road, they want to understand what it was like before for people like you and me.
So, wow. And you know what's so funny is if you never ever talk about that, and like you said, you were talking about it, like floods of memories came back to me, and I started getting emotional because never in a million years did I ever think that I'd be a psychic medium, that I'd be a teacher, and I'd be making the impact that I did. Before I became a psychic medium, I had no idea I had gifts. And I think that that's one thing that's really different, that some of us think that you have to be born into these gifts, and I didn't. So I was, I don't know, like a what do you call that in Harry Potter when they are like a muggle, is it?
Muggle, yeah.
Yes, it's like they don't have the power. Yeah, so I was like a muggle. And honestly, exactly, is that so funny? So I was always drawn to like psychics and mediums, but I was too scared to go to them, right? Because I thought they were mind readers, and like I felt like if I just walked by one of them, they would pick up things on me, and they were going to say things, and maybe it was going to be bad things. And it was so funny because I would watch those shows, like the Long Island Medium and such, and it's so funny. I'd just be like, why wasn't I given the gift? You know what I mean? That is such, it's so messed up that they get to have those gifts and I don't, right? But what I didn't know, that looking back on it, I actually did have those gifts, and that's what was driving me to have so much anxiety. And that's the reason why I ended up writing the book Anxiety to Angels, because it's like, oh my gosh, I think that so many of us, are actually, psychic, and we don't even realize it. But back then in the day, like I was just living like everyone else, I was living a lot more stressful life. I was definitely making life a little more harder than it had to be. I felt so much more alone. And, seriously, after I opened up to my gifts, like my whole life transformed. After I opened up to spirituality, like just opportunities started coming, and I just got propelled into a life that not just was like a mediumship, but I mean like a life where I got a big house, I live off of the water, you know what I mean? Just beautiful things. I have so much nicer things too. I'm not really materialistic, but at one point in my life, I was just like, wow, I want to have socks that fit me. I had a wish list that included a hamper, right? And so now it's like, wow, for me to like have my own office and to have clothes that I love, and it has nothing to do with money. It has to do with that mindset of spirituality.
That's beautiful.
Does that make sense? I feel like I'm talking too much.
No. This is your interview. I love that. I like the socks thing. What was that about? You wanted socks that fit you. What did you say that?
Oh my gosh. Yes. So I was married when I was 18, and I actually ended up in South Georgia, and I was living in this trailer. And you know what, with me, I'm going to be completely honest, right? It's the only way that I know how to be. And I am truly an open book, right? And it's really embarrassing to say this, but I was living in a roach infested trailer. Okay. I had a, exterminator come every single week to try and get the roaches at bay, because I couldn't even stock food or anything like that because they were crawling all in the walls, right? Like they were crawling in the everywhere. Sorry to give you the heebie-jeebies, right? But that's what I was going through at the moment. And you might say is rock bottom. That wasn't my rock bottom at all. But while there, I made a wish list, and I might actually still have it around here because I saved all of my journals. And it was the wish list of things that I would love in my life, and on that list included socks that fit me, because I had no money to get socks that fit me. I was wearing at the time my husband's socks, and he had much bigger feet than me. And, we didn't have a hamper, so I would just have to pile the clothes up on the floor, which seemed, at the time it was fine. But it's like, man, if I could have anything that I wanted, it would be like socks. And then it turned into like white socks, you know what I mean? Because once I got socks that fit me, then it was like white socks. Then I want more, 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 more. And then I think that spirituality actually brought me to the point of where I deserve that. I deserve socks that fit me. That's how low I was. I know that some of us are like, we might not feel good enough, right? I was truly at the bottom of the I don't feel good enough category, that I don't deserve anything. Everyone deserves more than me. And that's where I was at that moment of my life. And I slowly took up little steps, to increase my confidence and to increase my self-love, if you will, right? But then once spirituality happened, then you realize that, not only do you create your reality, so to speak, but then also you deserve everything in life, way more than socks that fit you. You know what I mean? You deserve to have whatever it is you desire, right? So
thank you for your
that's
candor.
about like that's what happened with the socks. And you should, and my what?
So thank you for your candor there, because that was really like honest and open. Thank you for that. That was really good.
Oh, yes.
That was beautiful.
Yes. And go ahead.
Go on, sweetie.
Okay. Well, I was just going to say, because a lot of people, if you even hear my voice, if you see me, if you know me at all, it really does seem like, wow, she might have her stuff together. She's so confident, you know what I mean? She's like this open book and that kind of thing. I've always been open with my life. I feel like our lives are meant to be shared, that if you are going through something, it is maybe because it could help someone else, to give them insight, or maybe it could stop them from going down your path, right? But back then, my confidence was at like a negative range. It wasn't even at a zero. It was like way behind there, already in the negative. And now I still think it's a process. So I'm still working on it and going forward.
I think it's lovely, because the reason I asked it was for a very specific reason, because many people who want to or are spiritual do suffer this way, do struggle through tests and trials, and they stop themselves in these points, and they stay stuck under these sort of very, very difficult situations because they don't think they're worthy of moving forward. And I wanted people to hear that. And I'm really glad you were so honest, because this shows that we can all do this, doesn't it? It really does show that. So what I would want to ask now is, so you said about earlier on in the conversation, you said about you wasn't really sure that you were psychic, and you watched all these shows and you loved them. But you see, I would always say that it was latently within you, because that's why you loved those shows and you already had it deep inside.
Yep.
So in your childhood, you may not remember, but if you could think of anything that maybe did make you a little bit different, or did you feel a little bit different in any way, maybe in that younger age group at all?
Oh, yes, yes. And it's so funny too, because I watched those shows very sparingly, right? And I remember at that trailer that I just talked to you about, I would watch Sylvia Brown on Montel Williams, if you remember when she used to be on his show, but it scared the daylights out of me. So it was really funny. I would only watch 5 to 10 minutes at a time, because I had the belief if I watched it for too long, the spirits were going to come, right? All right? If you don't know who Sylvia Brown is, she was one of the most iconic psychic mediums, you know what I mean, of honestly the last few decades. So and then she would go on Montel Williams and she would do predictions and such, right? So she's written a zillion books, right, on angels, on the other side. She's really known for all of those things. She's also known for being really inaccurate, by the way. So a couple of those predictions that she made on Montel Williams were for high profile cases, and it come to find out that it was all false what she had gotten, right? Because I feel like she kind of went more into the ego territory. And then she ended up not predicting her death correctly either. And she actually passed away some years ago. But when I was watching her, right, and at the time she was like, oh my gosh, she was like the psychic medium to watch, right? And I remember like only 10 minutes at a time. I was so interested in it. And I agree with you too. If you are drawn to spirituality, if you're drawn to psychics, even if you're scared, it's for a reason, right? You are recognizing that part in yourself. But it was so funny. I was sitting there. So this is when I was 19 years old. That's when I lived at the trailer. And it was so funny because Sylvia Brown said, if you she's like, if you have any electronics that malfunction, that kind of thing, she was like, oftentimes it is a spirit trying to reach out to you. So if like electronics, like flickering of lights and things like that. And at that moment, as soon as she said that, my son was asleep in the other room, right? He was like, I don't even know, like a few months old or something like that. His swing started going off by itself. And I remember I ran out of the house. And I remember at that time, I had a deal with myself that I said that if anyone ever died in a house, if there's ever a ghost, I would never ever go in there, right? But my son, I left my freaking son in there. So I was like, I have to go back in the house and save my son. And then but I ended up like, at the time, if anyone that's listening that had kids, you don't want to wake them up from a nap. So I had to like think for a second, like run out of the house scared and wake my child up, or allow him to have the nap and stay in the haunted house. So I decided to stay in the haunted house. And that was the only paranormal thing that ever happened in that place. But I like how you asked though, you know what I mean? Did I feel different and everything else growing up? I felt different from my family, but I didn't really feel different from the other people at school. And if I did, it had nothing to do with like abilities, you know what I mean? It had to do with me talking loud and talking fast, that kind of stuff. Looking back, I was way more sensitive to other people. I never ever had any kind of the experiences with, oh, I seen my grandmother. I knew something before it happened. I had a dream come true. None of that was happening for me. But I believe it was because I had such a fear towards it. Because I know like shows would scare me, and I would ask my mom about ghosts and she'd be like, they don't exist. But something in it didn't feel right to me. I'm like, wait a second. I feel like there's something, like I think I knew that something was around. And it was really funny. I'm not sure if you know this or not, but I was so scared of ghosts and spirits, that kind of thing, that I could not sleep on my side with my back exposed. So that's how I became a back sleeper, because I was afraid that the ghosts were going to, I don't know, tap me on my back. I don't know, like hit me on the back or something like that. So I would have to lay on my back, and I'm still a back sleeper to this day. Or I would have to go on my side and then make sure my back was up against the wall, because I was so afraid. So one time when I was I don't know, 8 years old or so, I got up early, like my sister did. My sister is a couple years older than me. And this was like the 90s. So she was in the bathroom, and she was like doing her hair. She had the perm, the really, really big bangs and that kind of stuff. And I remember I was going into the fridge and I hear Heather. And I was like, okay, it's like really loud because my sister's like all into her hair and she's playing music and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, I don't know why she called me and didn't say anything, but okay, whatever. So I kept on doing what I was doing, and I hear Heather. And then I'm like, okay, everyone else is asleep in this house. This house is like dark and quiet, except for the noise coming from the bathroom, right? But now I am like, who the hell is saying my name? So I had to like be the little sister to knock on my big sister's door when she's getting ready. And I'm like, Tabitha. I'm like, and she's like, what in the world do you want? And I'm like, you called my name. And she's like, no, I didn't. And then she's like, screamed at me, and she's like, but big sisters do, she slammed the door. That scared me so much that I never woke up early again. I was like, I associated that if you wake up too early, the ghosts will be there and they will say your name. But I think though that once I started, realizing a little bit, like I don't have to be so scared. That's when I started having those experiences, you know what I mean? After when I was 19 and 20 years old, and I started reading James Van Prague's book. I actually read his book, Talking to Heaven. Talking to Heaven. I think it's the second one first. And that's what changed my life, because it made me feel like you didn't have to be so scared of spiritual things. You know what I mean? That sometimes it's not ghosts that are going to like hurt you that are around you. It's your past loved ones. And then once I learned that from him, that's when I really started opening up, and then more experiences started to happen.
So actually, from what you've said, they were there with you from a childhood. It's just that you a bit like me, actually. We weren't aware of what that meant. It was very different for us because we were not evolutionarily developed enough. We were young. So I would say that's what kind of, yeah, that's really interesting, actually.
Yeah.
So on that note then, what do you feel brought you to the space then where you actually started opening up to your gifts? What actually brought that through? I know in Anxiety to Angels, you actually speak about it. So kind of give us a little bit of a flavor of what happened and how you went from where you were to where you then got to.
Oh, yes. Okay. And so grab your popcorn. So I was I was minding my own business, that kind of stuff. I had a lot of horrible things happening in my life, and a couple of them was my grandma had just passed away. My ex-boyfriend was trying to stalk me and that kind of thing, and so I was going in court litigations. It was just like overall every single area of my life had just went up in smoke. And I believe the last straw was really my grandmother passing away. And it was only a couple months after that, I started having seizures out of nowhere, right? I had no idea. And the doctors really didn't have a lot of reasons why that was happening. And so they were putting me on the max doses of seizure medication and that kind of thing. And I had to know what to do. I was like, there was no other reasons and that kind of thing. And I just knew I was really scared. Actually, I was so scared that I think that's what really caused my anxiety to like go full force. And it was so funny. In a desperate attempt, my friend, he has a uncle who actually does what I know now is mediumship. At the time, did not know what that was. I had no idea about any of this stuff. And so he offered to meet with me to talk to my body, because apparently he could talk to bodies and ask your body what they needed. And so as soon as I walk in, he just like looks at me. He was like, am I giving you a reading today? And I'm like, I don't know. I just remember being all flustered all the time. Right. And he was like, yeah, you need a lot of help. And in that time, he actually brought in my grandma, and my grandma was giving me a talking to, you know what I mean? Oh, I love her. And I remember thinking too, I never, ever want to leave this man or this space because, he's talking to my grandma right now. Now I know they're around you all the time. You know what I mean? You don't have to be around someone. Or if you go see a medium, believe me, your past loved one's not going to hang around that medium. They're going to stay with you. Okay. So wherever you are, your past loved one is. Remember one thing that he said, he was like, who you are on the outside isn't who you are on the inside. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's true. Because I tried to act like I wasn't scared, but I was scared to death inside. And then another thing that he said, he was like, your grandma says you have an angel. She's standing with an angel next to her saying, use him, use him. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I remember going home and the ride home being like, okay, Angel, I'm supposed to use you. Apparently you're here to help me. I don't really know how to go from here, So I'm like, if you see anything that needs to be done, you can go ahead and do it. I was like, I wasn't used to delegating to angels. You know what I mean? Like, what am I supposed to say? Like, I don't even know you. I can't even ask like, a friend for a favor. Now I'm going to ask an angelic being for a favor, So that's what happened. And then I don't know how, but you start learning about angels, you learn about meditation. So, but I was so scared. I couldn't close my eyes to meditate, right? I couldn't do it, right? So number one, back to the wall, right? Because you know what, those ghosts getting my back, right? So my back to the wall, and I would try and meditate, but I was so scared. So I ended up running into, I know, people run into monks all the time, but I ran into some monks, right? Tell me if that's not divine guidance, right? So I fell in love with these monks, and they invited me to meditate with them, right? And I didn't know this, but it was something that's open to the public, right? And I'm in the suburbs of Detroit, Michigan, okay? So if there are monasteries, with monks here, then there's actually a couple of them too. They're just not easy to see, to find, but they're hidden. They look like houses, but they're actually monasteries for the monks, right? They might have Buddha statues and whatnot on the outside. So I ended up going to, like, I remember my first meditation class. You don't mind me telling you the story, do you?
No, go. It's brilliant.
Okay. All right. So I remember going to my first meditation. I was so scared. And I remember they took donations, but I couldn't afford much. Like I could only put like $2 in the donation thing. They were so sweet and nice. Luckily I went to some that could speak English. And so I remember sitting down, and you go through like their process, right? It's almost like a church, so to speak, but you are like sitting down at all times. And then we did our meditation at the end. I believe it was maybe about like a 15 to 20-minute meditation. And I kept on seeing the color blue, the color blue, the color blue, right? And on the way home, I Googled what the color blue meant. And it associated itself with this thing called a chakra. And that's like a throat chakra. And then apparently some doctors thought that my seizures were caused from the thyroid, which is, you know what I mean, in the throat. And I remember that medium with my grandma saying something about like my throat chakra. And I was like, so I come home and I tell my husband, you know, I was like, oh my gosh, look at this. I seen the color blue during meditation and I looked it up and it says that it could be my throat chakra, you know, and everyone's been saying there could be something wrong with my thyroid, et cetera, et cetera. And it was so funny. He was like, wow, that's crazy. Like, who would have thought that that would be like the least craziest thing that would happen on this journey? You know what I mean? Because then after that, I kept on meditating, and then I didn't have to go to the monks anymore to meditate. And then I started getting insight during my meditation. And then I went to Virginia, joined a psychic development circle. And that's when I opened up to my gifts. But so now it's been a crazy journey with my husband. And now even thinking back on that first time, it's like, wow, we had no idea what we're getting ourselves into.
You know, it's so interesting that you bring that up, because last night I was actually thinking about how I'd got from where I was to where I got to. And there was a friend of my ex's, I was going through quite a lot of trouble, and he kept sending books for me about spirituality and about places in London where I could go and meet people apparently like me. And I thought, I'm not like that. I'm not like those people. I don't want to go there. And eventually I felt kind of dragged, and I did do it. So I do know what you mean, actually. Yeah, that is exactly the kind of thing. I was really reticent, and I always thought, oh, this is all woo-woo and crazy people do this, and I don't want to be a crazy person. And now I realize I'm kind of a crazy person, so who cares really? So yeah, I like that, because it really shows that anybody and all of us have because I believe everyone is psychic, right? I believe everyone has it. I don't want to hear any of this rubbish where no one has. Some people don't have it because it's there. It's another thing.
Everyone has it.
So everyone has it. So what you've said just shows that if we do the work, it's like a muscle, isn't it? If we actually do the work, then we can actually attain more peace within, I think. And this is, I think, can I ask that? Is that what you're saying? Did it give you that peace within from stepping into that, even though it was hard for you? Because that's kind of what I'm getting. It was a little bit difficult for you, right, as well, in some ways. But did it bring you that peace within? Yeah.
Oh my gosh, 1000%. Yeah, I was still like scared of psychics and mediums, even when I was getting, you know, insight during my meditations. I was so scared. Like I remember me and my husband actually went to a gala, right? And we were dressed like in the 40s and stuff like that. And they had a psychic, they had two psychic, they actually had tarot card readers. Oh my gosh. Like, and my heart was like pulled to it. Like pulled and pulled and pulled to it. But I am like, oh my gosh, no, I'm so scared. And then it wasn't even just me. It's like I started opening up enough where I'm curious about it now. So this is after I meditate with the monks and things like that, right? Still drawn to the tarot card readers, but still had this fear, right? And then the fear started growing into, okay, I like this stuff, but what does my husband think and other people think, and how people are going to think about me if I get a reading done? And so there was like no line. There was no line at all. And I could have just went there, and I didn't. And to this day, I kind of do regret it, because I wonder what they would have said, right? Because then, like, I don't know, it was like an hour later, I finally get the courage up to get the reading by her, and there was way too long of a line. And I have a feeling they probably would have told me that I am very psychic and that I am a medium and things like that, and I just wasn't ready to hear it at the time. But 100% everyone does. We are all born with this gift. And I just kind of relate it to, you know, some people are more sensitive to be able to draw, like they have that talent, or, you know, singing and that kind of stuff. All of us can do whatever that we want, you know, but we're just giving some tools that would make it easier to do some abilities than others, you know. So some of us will make great mediums, some great psychics. And then has it helped my life and given me peace? Oh my gosh, it has been like amazing. Like I feel like because I have spirit in my corner every day, that my life, like I don't have to worry as much, even though I still do. I still worry, but it's on a very, very lower level, right? So every single day, and that's why I love to promote like a spiritually infused life, you know what I mean? Meaning that you're not just getting information on your meditation pillow, you're also getting it throughout your day. So did you yeah, I was gonna say, I'm not sure if you heard about my story about my office, but same thing. I almost signed a lease with a storefront in February of 2020. So we all know what happened in March of 2020, right? So I actually was going to sign up a lease for my own storefront, or at least my own office. And for some reason, I kept on getting that nudge, you know what I mean? Don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And finally I decided I was going to do it anyways. I was going to do it anyways. And I remember my husband was like, yeah, just do it. And then I go to do it, and I literally cannot sign this piece of paper. I cannot. The feeling is too strong for no. And I just look at my husband and I was like, spirit saying no. I was like, something is on the horizon that we don't know about, and I can't do this right now. Could you imagine having just signed a lease before everything shut down?
You wouldn't have been happy. Do you know, it's interesting because that's brought me to another thing that I was thinking about yesterday. I must have been thinking about this for bits, because I had a particular bit like that. I made a decision based on a feeling that I had inside. Now, back many moons ago, two towers were hit, twin towers occurred, right? Now I was traveling at the time, and we were due to fly around the time of that occurrence, and they grounded all the flights. There was a lot of chaos at the time. About 3 weeks before, or maybe even 4 weeks before, I started getting really unwell, sick, jittery. I wanted to leave the country I was in. I forced my ex at the time to say, no, we need to leave. We need to get on a plane now. We need to go home. And I did all these things, and we came back early. And then on the date that it all happened was the date we would have been either in the air or we would have been leaving. I can't remember it exactly. But within my mind and within my body, I had known something was coming. I could feel it. I could feel it so heavily inside of me. And I created quite a lot of chaos in order to get my way, because everyone was a bit like, well, why do you want to go? So why do you want to go? It's fine. Your ticket's transferable. You can change it whenever you want. I was like, no, it has to be now. It has to change now. And I think that's, you see, when you say that about how you knew not to sign, we all know this stuff. And you're reminding people of that, because I think, and when you say about what you do, you must know now, I guess, with all of what you do, you're helping people to remember that themselves. Yeah. Does that come up for you? Do you know that? Does that really come out for you?
Oh yes, for sure. Yeah, for sure. That's what I'm passionate about. Is like we all are getting it. It's just that we don't understand how the spirit talks to us. Like I sat in that spiritual development circle, right? That I told you I joined the psychic circle. I sat there like for months, every single week for months, not knowing what okay, they're not talking to me. I'm not getting anything, right? Until finally it clicked one day, and it's like, oh, this is how they talk to us. They talk to us, through thoughts, through impressions, you know what I mean? Through our intuition, through those gut feelings, those kind of things. And a lot of us, we put so much stock into what other people think, or, we're so busy dealing with our external world that we don't really feel like what's happening inside of our own bodies. You know what I mean? Like, okay, why in the world am I thinking that? Why did that thought just come up? Why all of a sudden do I feel this inside of my stomach? And we don't understand that, there is possibly something that we're connecting to. And that's not something that has to happen just for the big giant events in our life. You know what I mean? Like someone, giving birth or someone passing away. We always hear that, I had a dream that someone, got pregnant or whatever, but for all the little things too, right? Spirit's always trying to talk to us. So maybe it could prepare us for those big moments, but it's happening all the time, daily. And that's what I love to do. I'm always in constant contact with them. And it's not like I'm always sitting down on my meditation pillow, or I'm always just like, it's a weird thing. It's like, I'm paying attention to my thoughts is because I did that. One of them was being able to know that I needed to spend more time with my mom, before finding out that she had cancer. And then luckily I knew this before she actually got sick, because I was paying attention to, the angel numbers, downloads, intuitive feelings. Yes.
That's great.
Okay, I could talk about this all day.
I know. I think from that, our viewers can really understand that if they've got any of this yen, to move gently towards it, because it's really worth it. Because I think when we hold ourselves back, as Heather was saying about getting sick, you do get quite sick when you don't actually be authentic within yourself. We can get quite unwell from that. So right now we're on to the fun part. So I would like to know, could you give us your favorite non-fiction book recommendation?
Ooh, okay. Non-fiction book. It's a no-brainer. I'm so sorry it's spiritual, but it is. I think everyone needs to read this. It's called The Assertiveness for Earth Angels by Doreen Virtue. And I know that we have bittersweet things about Doreen Virtue, but that is a must, especially if you feel like you are sensitive, if you're an empath, if you're anyone on this, that's a great book.
Yeah, her work's very interesting. All of my viewers should know about the whole Doreen story because I mentioned it many a time. So, and also, what about a fictional book? What's one of the fictional books you could give us that you've ever read that you've really enjoyed?
Okay, the one who's coming to me, and I feel like I need to read it again because I'm not a big fiction fan, right?
Yeah.
But I love The Shack.
I can't believe you just said that book. That Shack has been in my head over the last few days. The Shack. Because
The Shack.
Yesterday I thought about it as well. That must be also assigned to me. Guys, it's for you and for me. So yeah. What about a spiritual movie? I wasn't going to ask this, but now I am. What about a spiritual movie or a spiritual show? Not like a fictional, but a non-fictional sort of something.
Oh, like a non-fictional? Okay. Oh, honestly, I can't believe I'm going to say this, right? But honestly, it's going to be Ghost Adventures. It's a paranormal show, right? But what I want you, okay, but hear me out. When you watch that show, first off, Zach Baggins is like completely like a drama queen. So it's like entertainment right there, right? But then you can also see how he's an empath, right? And how he's connecting to some of like those unseen ghosts and that kind of stuff. So I know some people are like, oh, is it real or not or whatever? You know what I mean? Like, just it's entertainment, and it also has a lot of learning experiences with the spiritual realm. So I would definitely have to say that I'm kind of addicted, and I like to make fun of Zach. And you can even hear him beforehand, protecting himself, or he'll go to church and make sure that he's protected against entities and stuff like that. So see, it's very accurately based, when you look into that. And so some other shows, those shows, they don't show that. So you're laughing at me now.
I love you.
Did you think I was going to say that?
Do you know everything she says? But you probably all worked out by now because I did not mention this at the beginning, but we are friends, right? So you know now. But I was going to say it at the beginning, but I just forgot. But yeah, we are friends and we do know each other. So I know, and she knows about my crazies as well. So it's fine. It's lovely. She loves all her ghosts and I love all my angels and self-love. So we kind of got our little topics and we just talk about them. Heather, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you here. Could you please tell me where my viewers can find you if they're going to look you up? What are your handles, your social media handles? You say them here. I will put them down in the notes, but if you say them, that's just so they can hear them. But I will put all the details down in the notes as well.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. If you want to reach out to me, my website is therealheatherdanielle.com. If you want to see me on Facebook, I am Heather Danielle Psychic Medium. I also have Rise Into Your Power Facebook group. And I'm not big on Instagram, but if you want to hang out with me there, I am spiritual_Heather Danielle.
Thank you so much, sweetie. And you know where you can find me, guys. I'm here on Self Love Self Care System, and I'm on Facebook at the coaching page and the angel page. And you all know where my website is, which is www.selfloveselfcaresystem.com. I love you all. Thank you so much for joining me and Heather today in this interview. Sending you all so much love. Namaste. So goodbye from me and Heather.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
Bye, everyone. Take care. Bye. Lots of love.